This week on Vice, inside Iran's nuclear program.
When they say they're not trying to build a bomb, they're lying.
This pool is radioactive and your thing is beeping, so maybe we should go out.
People are angry because they know that this is not for weapons.
And then, the street kids of Kolkata.
It's kids running the kids show.
Since the hostage crisis in 1979, our relationship with Iran has been America's most intractable foreign policy problem. But last year, Iran and the major world powers signed a landmark agreement that eased years of economic sanctions in exchange for Iran's abandonment of its nuclear weapons program.
Under the nuclear deal that we, our allies and partners, reached with Iran, it can begin to receive relief from certain nuclear sanctions and gain access to its own money that had been frozen.
Now, this deal has been intensely controversial here at home, with 47 senators signing a letter saying they had the right to rescind the agreement.
I signed that letter. I stand by it.
Now, that in turn prompted charges of treason from the president's supporters.
Republicans are undermining our commander-in-chief while empowering the Ayatollahs.
But lost in all the noise and rhetoric here in the US is what the Iranians themselves think of the agreement. So we went to Tehran to find out.
We're here in Tehran, and this is the Independence Day parade. The president is making a speech, and we're trying to get there, but so is the rest of Tehran.
When we arrived in Tehran this winter, the American-led nuclear deal was just beginning to take effect. But at this national celebration, we didn't see many signs of warming towards the West.
It's the 37th anniversary of the revolution. They're trotting out new missile systems. There's drone systems over there. We're going to see what's happening here and see what's going on. People are very excited. There's a lot of Obama being burned in effigy, America being burned in effigy, and we're here to see how it's going here in Tehran.
Now, the parade was dominated by the standard anti-American chants and the burning of effigies. But when we actually talked to people in the public square, their opinions about America were much more complex.
Government of the America, they are all claiming Iran's people are terrorists, but we are not terrorists, we are friendly. The government of the America, they are involving themselves in other countries, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan.
We are enemy of government of America.
Right.
We have no problem with people of America. We like them.
Now, distrust of the American government dates back to 1953, when the CIA led a coup that overthrew the democratically elected prime minister and transferred all power to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran. And for more than 2 decades of authoritarian rule, he governed as America's proxy in the region. But in 1979, the Shah was overthrown by the Islamic Revolution, and the Grand Ayatollah Khomeini rose to power.
Khomeini is my leader, and I believe in his leadership.
Now, a first-hand witness to all of this was Massouma Ebtekar, an Iranian revolutionary and spokeswoman for a group of Iranian students who took more than 50 Americans hostage at the U.S. Embassy in 1979.
The hostages are in our hands.
and we protect them strongly. And we are ready so that in the case of any military intervention, we will destroy them.
Today, she is part of Iran's political elite and acts as one of their powerful vice presidents. In America, there are some skeptics, basically, in the American government about the deal. Are there skeptics in Iran about the deal?
Yes, we have skeptics in Iran. The long history of the imperialism that Iran experienced during all those ages, that has created some people to be anti-American and not to be so optimistic about the ultimate results of this deal.
Now, this deal is a hallmark of the Obama Doctrine, which is this president's initiative to engage with, rather than isolate, our traditional enemies. But it's also a profound compromise, because rather than ending Iran's nuclear capabilities entirely, the deal only slows the program down, and consequently has earned a huge amount of skepticism here in the U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham was one of the signatories of the controversial letter to the Ayatollah.
When they say they're not trying to build a bomb, they're lying. When they tell us what they're going to do with it, nobody really knows. So here's what I would assume the worst. All their behavior since the agreement, holding the 2 American ships, jailing Americans, firing missiles in violation of UN resolutions. Here's what the Ayatollah and his buddies are telling us. You misjudged us. On the day we voted in the Senate to basically uphold this agreement, he tweeted out, Allah willing, within 25 years, the Zionist regime in Israel won't exist. They're basically giving Obama the diplomatic finger. Under the agreement, after 15 years, they can reprocess and enrich without limitation. So all you've done is buy time. Under this agreement, they can buy weapons freely on the open market 5 years from now. They can increase their missile technology 8 years from now. By the end of a 15-year period, they have a pathway to enrichment and reprocessing that makes them a threshold nation in terms of a nuclear bomb. I think overall that deal fell well short of what I would have liked.
Now, under this deal, Iran's nuclear facilities will be able to produce electricity, but will, in theory, remain incapable of generating enough fissionable material to produce a nuclear weapon. To see how Iran is responding to these terms, we went to the Tehran research reactor, which is the birthplace of Iran's nuclear program. Now, this reactor was actually given to Iran in the 1960s by the United States under a program optimistically named Atoms for Peace. To learn more about the program, we met with the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, Vice President Ali Akbar Salehi. You studied at MIT, and I believe this reactor came from America.
Yes.
I think a lot of Americans would be surprised about that. So you have a unique position. You were foreign minister during sanctions. Now sanctions have been lifted. One of the reasons why they were doing the sanctions is because they wanted to come to facilities like this. Why was it such a huge issue that they had to come and see your nuclear program?
They thought that Iran was intending to divert to non-peaceful nuclear activities.
To make weapons?
To make weapons, yes. Iran is never interested in this because assuming we had developed a nuclear weapon, use it against whom? We could not get into competition with the United States, with Russia, with, So
it would be suicide.
You could never, ever come up and compete with other leading countries in this regard. Our supreme leader had issued a fatwa, which is a decree forbidding the production, accumulation, and any possible use of weapons of mass destruction.
Why do you think that there was such an acceptance, I guess, on both sides of that political story?
I think that pressure came essentially from the side of America to see if they can somehow bring back Iran to their political orbit. They came to a very good conclusion that it's time to engage with Iran. The Iranian influence in the region was increasing day by day, and the golden key in the Middle East is in the hand of Iran.
Maybe you could explain a little bit of what golden key means.
Well, when I say golden key, Iran is situated in a very geostrategic place. We are a link between Central Asia and through Turkey to Europe. We are a link between Russia and Persian Gulf, which is very important in the south. We are a stable country. We don't have sectarian problems.
What do you see going forward in the next few years happening politically in Iran and with Iran in the region.
We have to rebuild the trust and confidence.
And you seem very optimistic about the future, optimistic about being more transparent, being more open. I wonder if we could ask you if we could see the facility here today.
Yes, why not?
Okay. You got reactor on? We want me to go again? Okay. When we reached the actual reactor level, spokesman Behrouz Kamalvandi gave us an overview. So this reactor here was the birthplace of the Iranian nuclear program.
This is only one of 10 sites we have. This is the eldest. The fuel initially was about more than 90% supplied by the American.
Right.
Yeah, but the majority of the fuel already is made by our own experts.
Your own experts here. So you can make your own fuel, your own uranium.
This is what we are
within
doing
Iran.
also, yeah.
One of the researchers brought us closer to the pool to show us how the reactor works.
This is the research reactor.
The water's very blue.
The blue is because of the Tehran radiation.
So it's radioactive. So we're going to stand away from it. I am anyway.
Yeah. Here we do research, education, and producing the radioisotopes.
Right. This pool is radioactive and your thing is beeping, so maybe we should go out. Why do you think that there's been so much international furor to come into facilities like this in Iran?
I think they have made a lot of stories.
Yeah.
The stories, unbelievable. But once you open the doors here, you leave the people to see we are not doing anything wrong. This is producing radioisotope for medical cure, for cancer, for diagnosis. This is why you see the people are angry, because they know that this is not for weapons. Iran, if it wants to go toward weapon, we don't have difficulties, because once you can fabricate fuel, you can make it.
Standing next to an active reactor, Kamalvandi admitted to us that if Iran can make reactor fuel, they can also make a weapon. And that has been the international community's biggest concern all along. And according to U.S. Secretary of Energy, Ernest Moniz, who is a key negotiator on the deal, Iran was, in fact, close to being able to produce a bomb.
There are several pathways to a nuclear weapon. In Iran, the general thought was if they chose to move towards a nuclear weapon, they could produce the needed materials in 2, perhaps 3 months. The accomplishment of the Iran deal is that they have scaled back their activities to a place where even in a so-called breakout scenario, it would still be at least a year, more than enough warning for us to act should they decide to pursue a weapon. The Iran agreement is not based on trust. This agreement is about no nuclear weapon, absolutely grounded in verification.
Now, negotiators insisted on a strong system for verifying Iran's compliance, but Iranian nuclear authorities maintain that this was unnecessary.
We are against these weapons of mass destruction because you cannot kill innocent people according to our ideology.
But that ideology isn't always so clear-cut. Fuad Azadi, a professor of American Studies in Tehran, took us to the Imam Khomeini Mosque, where the spirit of the Ayatollah's anti-American defiance is alive and well.
Is this the largest mosque in Tehran?
Yes.
Yeah. It's very busy.
Thousands, tens of thousands.
during the prayers, there was actually a podium, and in front of the podium it said, "Against the United States." Why is that?
People are suspicious about the United States. This is one of the main slogans of the revolution. Because of that history, people don't have good memories about U.S. presence here and U.S. politics in Iran, and that has continued.
You teach students here in Tehran about America. What do young people think about America?
The people that we teach are born after the victory of Islamic Revolution.
Right.
So most of them are in their 20s. So this is an opportunity for the other side because they're dealing with a generation that has not experienced American politics.
Socially, politically, and economically, we're at a big...
It's a turning point.
Turning point,
yes,
between Iran and America. Mm-hmm. And it could go one way, it could go the other.
It can.
Now, outside the mosque's walls, opinions about America seem to be positive, especially among Tehran's young people.
After agreement between Iran and the United States of America, we have a good situation in Iran. And I think Iranian people love American people.
دیگه دوره‌ایه که باید انسانیت موج بزنه. و دشمنی و حرفا باید واقعا گذاشت کنار.
I think all the nations are similar, but they are pretending to be not similar by our, I think, governments.
Now, Iran just held elections in which moderate candidates made big gains, building on the election of a more pro-Western president in 2013. But in the elections here in America, the rhetoric is turning much more conservative, and the Iran deal is a major flashpoint.
They are laughing at the stupidity of the deal we're making on nuclear. We should double up and triple up the sanctions and have them come to us.
I would urge the next president not to honor this deal and bring these people to their knees as much as possible before it's too late.
If the next administration wants to undermine this nuclear deal with Iran, it would undermine essentially its own credibility. Then that means you cannot trust the continuity of any commitment made by any administration in the United States.
But the issue has now become so politicized, especially amongst hardliners on both sides, that it's clear that this story is far from over. Global wealth disparity has reached record levels in recent years. Now it's created pockets of unimaginable affluence and huge populations who are falling farther and farther behind. And nowhere is this more apparent than in India, where the most prominent victims of poverty and inequality are young people.
Morning, we're on an express train into Kolkata. Like most trains, this one's going to Howrah. It's like Grand Central Kolkata. It's one of the biggest train stations in India. Millions of people pass through it every day, and thousands of street kids live there.
India's got a lot of people, some 1.26 billion at last count. Kolkata's railroads not only service the entire eastern half of the country, they connect India's railways with all the South Asian countries to its east. Bangladesh, Burma, Cambodia, China, none of which are doing too shabby in the population department.
This is the most intimidating train crunch I've ever seen. It's like if the World Series and New Year's like all occurred on the New York subway. This is just basically standard Saturday platform traffic.
On the periphery of all the commuters and porters and other train personnel are Howrah's only permanent residents, the platform kids. They wait for each train to disgorge its passengers, then scramble on board to collect all the water bottles and other recyclables left behind, which you'd think would be viewed as a valued service, though this is not often the case.
They're basically living in this weird little blind spot created by India's massive population, right? Pretty much.
Despite us being out-of-towners, one of the Howrah boys took us under his wing and introduced us to his friends at Platform 17, just one of the many gangs of kids around the station.
Those are some little lost boys. How you doing, man?
While living on the tracks is how we usually refer to the lowest level of human existence, the Howrah kids we saw seemed to be enjoying themselves and a lawless, parentless sense of freedom they enjoy at the station.
That's a good stream he's got going. It's kids running the kids show.
Howrah's street children may seem like a form of vestigial poverty, a remnant of old India that will be swept away by the country's growing economy and influx of new money. But in fact, according to Professor Mazumdar of the Jaya Prakash Institute, the children at the train station are a modern phenomenon.
Kolkata is very thickly populated. The government planned to develop this area. They needed a huge labor force. And this labor force came mainly from the rural districts. They used to go to work, leaving aside their children. They didn't know what the children are doing. They were uncared for. And that was the beginning of the problem of street children in Kolkata.
While a lot of the Howrah kids are runaways or orphans, some are still in touch with their families. Some of them even lived right by the station.
So this little guy, Jah Mohammed, his mom actually lives near here. Problem is she works all day, so she can't look after him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jah Mohammed's mom was waiting for him at his family home, which is built under a highway overpass.
Are these all yours? Okay. And one more. Oh, she's the oldest one. Okay. Could we see where you live? Okay, so this is home. This explains things a little bit more. This is not a squat. This is basically homeless living, so it's not entirely surprising Jah Mohammed would opt for a slightly more fun, at least for a kid, form of homeless living over at the station. So the whole thing with Howrah, we look at it and we see a train station that's dirty and like dangerous. But if you look at the rest of this neighborhood, Howrah's actually kind of clean and safe.
Even without parents around, the Howrah kids still have daily responsibilities.
Is this today's just from one train or from the whole day?
The bottle game is big money around Howrah. It's basically its own microeconomy, with the gangs working as little recycling cooperatives and a network of collection centers located right off the tracks for them to sell to.
So that's the transaction. Bottles have been dropped off, money's changed hands, and we head back. Back to do it again and again. Hello. Hey, good TV? Got it.
Between bottle recycling and basic panhandling, platform kids can make enough scratch in one day to keep them and their fellow gang members fed. Unfortunately, the first thing most Howrah kids spend their money on is glue to get high off of, which is available for cheap at newsstands around the station. The platform kid brand of choice is dendrite, which costs a little less than a quarter. If there's any money left after buying glue, it gets spent as it does by high teenagers anyway, at the movies.
One balcony. Oh, a lot of kids. Hey, guys.
The platform kids are such regulars at this theater that the owners change the movie daily just for them and let them huff dendrite the whole time they're in there. It's like the Cinematheque Francaise meets the rowdiest, least supervised birthday party you've ever been to.
Oh my God, it reeks of glue in here. It smells like the inside of a tube of dendrite.
After the movies, the kids head back to Howrah to sleep, where the atmosphere is a lot darker than it is during the daytime.
It is spooky out here. This is not where I'd want to be hanging out. Everybody's got a rag in their mouth.
Okay.
Ready to sleep.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good.
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 Yeah.
The glue sniffing continues until shut-eye. Actually, a lot of the kids sleep with their glue rags stuffed in their mouths like pacifiers, which in a sad way they kind of are. At this point, the glue is less a recreational drug than a necessary anesthetic for their environment. Mohammed Sohail is 12 years old. He's been living in Howrah for the last 2 years and uses glue every night to get to sleep.
আমরা রানিং শিখে গেলাম আমাদের রানিং শেখালো তারপর কিভাবে নেশা ধরতে হয় কিভাবে কি করতে হয় আমাদেরকে শেখালো হাওড়া এরকম বোতল কুড়াতে মন চায় না নেশা পানি করতে মন চায় না এরকম একটা মনে যাচ্ছে
What do you want to happen then? Like what do you want to do?
এরকম মন চায় কি অন্য একটা স্কুলে ভালো জায়গা যাওয়ার
You kids are a mess.
Uncle, cigarette.
Yeah.
I got no money.
How you guys doing?
I have my cigarette.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
The next morning, everybody wakes up, wipes the glue from their mouths, and starts the whole process over again. One thing we started to notice was there weren't just no adults around. There didn't seem to be any older street kids. It's weird, considering you have hundreds of children on the tracks. You really don't see anyone over the age of 14 or 15.
These kids, they don't think about what's going to happen.
Vishu Viswanath helps run this drop-in center by the station, where platform kids can come get off the tracks for a bit, eat some food, and catch up on their cartoons. He's one of the few authority figures the street kids regularly interact with, and one of the only grown-ups they all seem to trust.
Oh, you have a nice shiner.
মানে পুলিশটা চড় মারতে গিয়ে এখানে ঘুষো মেরে দিয়েছে
A policeman did that?
পুলিশে ঘন ঘন মানে অনেক না ঘন ঘন মারে
What happens is passengers are losing the stuff on the train, and the excuse is if you don't beat them, then you won't get the information in getting back the materials.
How badly beaten? Is it just like slaps and?
No.
No?
They got sticks.
Like those big batons they carry?
Yeah. By the time they would be 17 or 18, they would be going to jail. And once you go to the jail, you come out a harder soul.
Since Howrah is not only an awful place for kids to live, but may also be grooming them for an adult life of crime, we met with the State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights to see what the government in Kolkata is doing about the situation.
The urbanization is so rapid in our society that street children problem is not taken care of properly. It will take certain times to get street children really reintegrated with their society.
How long do you estimate it'll take?
Within 25 to 50 years, we can expect that population rate will come to a level that we can manage the problems of this huge population. And we can hope that industries and commerce ventures will provide enough fund and enough hands to take care of these problems.
So the government's official plan is to wait for 50 years and see if adding more people to the city somehow solves the problem. Meanwhile, as Kolkata waits for half a century to see how this turns out, mass urbanization isn't a local issue, or even an Indian one. According to the United Nations, in the next 15 years, 60% of the entire planet will live in crowded urban areas just like Kolkata. And as the widening gap between rich and poor forces these new city dwellers to work even longer and harder to make ends meet, packs of uncared-for children like the scene at Howrah may become a permanent feature of the urban landscape worldwide.